How's it going, everybody? It is Thursday, um, Christmas Eve of 2021, and we are doing Tao of the Day. We should call it Dowmas or something. But this is the time when you can come on and select a number between 1 and 81, and I will give you your Tao for the day. The Tao Te Ching translates to the canon of reason, or that's how I translate it. And it is all about being here and present in the moment and living a reasonable life. That is what we're here for. And if you want to join me, I would happily give you your Tao for the day. Just choose a number between 1 and 81. My name is Martin John. I have over 21 years clean and sober. And in that time, I have learned quite a bit about what it means to recover yourself, what it means to recover to something, not just recovering from something. And so a large aspect of my journey was the Tao Te Ching and getting me through my life day to day and trying to understand, like, how can I be more present in the moment, how can I be more responsible for my actions, and how can I just take all of these emotional ups and downs and be more reasonable and live a more reasonable existence. And that's what this is all about. And I want to share this with you because it helped me so much. But I also feel like this is something that I've been doing for a long time and presenting the Tao to people. I used to carry a copy in my car, and when people would come in and they would have problems, I'd be like, pick a number between 1 and 81. And then I would read their Tao for them, and it would talk about exactly what they're dealing with. And the nice thing about the Tao is it gives you sort of a stance in order to take. It doesn't just say, hey, this is the way it is. It just states, hey, this is how the master deals with things. And this is how someone who is struggling deals with things. And when you can see the difference and why, and you can kind of have somebody to talk about it with, because a lot of these can be a little deep and get lost in the weeds. And if you get lost in the weeds while reading the Tao, it's great to be able to communicate with another person like myself who has done this for a while and can really just guide you to understand what it's trying to say, because it can seem convoluted at times because it might go through things that seem disparate, but there are connections, and those connections are what I'm here to help you make. I make i make connections really easily, and it's really wonderful when I get the opportunity to do that. And so I would love to be able to do that with you. Just join me here on Wisdom, and then we can go ahead and talk about the Tao. I'm going to choose for my Tao for today. I'm going to choose number 20. Oh, number 20 is a long one. So if nobody wants to join me, I can probably talk about this all day. This starts with one of my favorite lines from the Tao, and we will just go through this completely and see where we are at once we're done. If anybody does want to join me, I would take a break from 20 and read your Tao, and then I can always return to 20. But here is 20. Stop thinking and end your problems. What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? Must you value what others value? Avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. Other people are excited as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care. I alone am expressionless, like an infant before it can smile. Other people have what they need. I alone possess nothing. I alone drift about like someone without a home. I am like an idiot. My mind is so empty. Other people are bright. I alone am dark. Other people are sharp. I alone am dull. I alone am dull. Other people have a purpose. I alone don't know. I drift like a wave on the ocean. I blow as aimless as the wind. I am different from ordinary people. I drink from the great mother's breast. Okay, I got goosebumps all over me right now after reading that. It is such a beautiful, kind of forceful chapter. And I can't express how much I love this one because of just that first line. The first line is what I think is probably one of the great lines of the Tao. Stop thinking and end your problems. I mean, how many of us can agree to that? How many of us can agree that, like, oh my God, if I were just to shut my mind off, everything would kind of like nothing would be more important than another thing, and I can just be here present in the moment. I don't have to think about the past or the future, or I don't have to think about what someone else is doing. I can just be here in my body as myself right now. So stop thinking and end your problems. You know, I look at that. I look at that. Stop thinking and end your problems. And I really want to be in with the rest of chapter 20 in mind. I want to relate this back to the sensual, right? The things of our senses. Like we see things. There's that one chapter of the Tao that say color blinds the eye, sound deafens the ear, tastes numb the tongue, right? Something of that nature, or flavors numb the taste, or dull the taste. I don't know what it was, but that's labeling, right? That's identifying things as something. That's like this. Like this ice cream tastes blank, right? Like whatever you put in blank, no, because it it's just an experience you're having, right? And so if we can stop thinking and stop trying to position things in a certain way, like this is good, this is bad, trying to like identify things as what they are, like if we can just stop thinking, we will end our problems. And that's what we start with, and we're going to end up coming back to this, I believe. But let's move on and see what else it says here. What difference between yes and no? And I love this. What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? Exactly. Exactly. And that's it's such a beautiful, like, sentiment. I know we really want the yes and we really want success, but what is the difference there? What is the actual difference there? It only gives you what you desire. And so if you stop thinking, there becomes no difference between yes and no. Yes and no just bring about a circumstance, and that circumstance is going to play itself out. However, it plays itself out. And success and failure are both circumstances in which you will face. And so, if you are currently in the midst of a failure, it's really no different than being in the midst of a success. You are just in the midst of an experience. But if you were to stop thinking about there being a positive connotation to yes or success and a negative connotation to no or failure, you would immediately end your problems. You would no longer see the difference. Must you value what others value, avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. And I love that as well. Now, I'm going to call myself a natural contrarian. Now, Bella has been on and said, I think it was Bella. She had come on one time and stated that, like, oh, well, maybe you're a natural contrarian just because, like, you are an individual. And yes, of course, I am an individual, and I've honed my individuality by recovering myself, right? By recovering to who I am as, that God that I was born to be. So must I value what others value, avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. And that comes right after those lines. What's the difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? That's an important aspect because most people value the yes and value success, and the Tao speaks about this in other ways, like what is more damaging, success or failure? What is more dangerous, I think, is actually the words that Stephen Mitchell used. What's more dangerous, success or failure? And so when we start looking at this aspect of what are we valuing in our lives that others value, and must we do that? Is that the same? Like, shouldn't we value the experience that we're in rather than just valuing the yes or the success because we have denoted those to be the good of the two different experiences, or the myriad of experiences that we might encounter? Must you value what others value, avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. And I love that, how ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. How many people do you know that want to have a lot of money and big house by the beach and live in a warm space. Like everybody wants that. Is it what they want? Or is that just what they've been told to want? Is that what they're just programmed to want? Everybody wants to be in like this certain kind of relationship. Everyone wants to get married and have kids and do all these things. And yeah, maybe that's what you want, but maybe it's also what someone else wants and not really what you want. And it's hard to know sometimes. I know in my work, when I talk to people that are, recovering from things and we're trying to move them to a space of recovering to things, they have to dismantle their whole lives so that they understand what it is they truly value. And that's where the stop thinking and end your problem. Stop thinking, be you right now. There is no question as to what you want right now. All you have to do is let that muddy water settle so you can see. But you got to be still for that. You can't just always be looking for the yes, looking for the success. You have to sit here and be you because that is the success. That is the only thing there is. Must you value what others value and avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. Love it. Love it. This is such a beautiful verse. I can't believe I don't think we've covered 20 yet because this is the first time I'm getting to get down on this one and I really this is one that every time I read one I'm always excited about it. But this one just that first line really excites me. That stop thinking and end your problems. Like I know people have called this number out when I was, driving around and I said, okay, pick a number between one. You're going through a tough time and I open it up, stop thinking and end your problems. Like that just ends it right there. There's nowhere else we need to go, but we're going to continue, of course. Other people are excited. And I expressed this one time to somebody and they were confused by it, but other people are excited as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care. I alone am expressionless like an infant before it can smile. So this is something that I like to reference a lot in my life is like, oh, I don't want to be, when you see someone that's excited about something as if they were at a parade, they're like, oh my God, like I remember when wisdom opened up to everybody and everyone was running around like, blowing smoke up Dio's ass, like being all excited about the app and stuff. And I was like, well, the app isn't really something to be excited about. I mean, it's an app, it's a place that we can kind of communicate. But they were like, oh my God, this is going to be the next best thing. Da, da, da. And I'm like, are you just trying to position yourself in a place that is are you trying to believe something that you don't believe? Are you trying to convince yourself of something? Anytime I see someone like at a parade, like not actually at a parade, but are excited about like a new restaurant or excited about, a cookie or something and aren't subdued about that in any way, I'm always like, what are you doing? What are you trying to accomplish here by being so excited, by putting in so much effort in being excited? Like that's always something that makes me just a little suspicious. So other people are excited as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care, and I really love that because I have done the stoic thing for a lot, and so that concept of don't care and am expressionless, really, like, not caring doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean that you are indifferent. It means that this is happening now and it will pass. So I can't invest everything into this at this moment. I have to be here present with what it is as it is this because there isn't anywhere else to go. This is just how it is. If anybody wants to join me, you can go ahead and click and come on. I can always come back to 20, but I'm going to continue going until that happens. Um, Other people have what they need. I alone possess nothing. I alone drift about like someone without a home. I am like an idiot. My mind is so empty. I do like that last line. I am like an idiot. My mind is so empty. And I do enjoy being in that space. I mean, many of you here on Wisdom may know me as someone who speaks pretty deeply and speaks. I hope you think I speak well, um, but it is this concept of, like, let's go to the first line here in this section. Other people have what they need. This to me speaks of hoarding. This to me speaks of, oh, I got my education and I got this and I got all of these things that make me feel whole. I got my stuff, I got my education, I got my intellect, I got my knowledge, and I'm acquiring, acquiring, acquiring. And because I'm acquiring, I have what I need. I just need this. I just need this. I think it was in the movie The Idiot. I don't know if that was the title of the movie, but I think it was. Um where he was leaving the house and he was just like, this is all I need. This lamp is all I need. And he was taking all these things. But I alone drift about like someone without a home. Like, you don't have to acquire things. Like someone without a home, not someone that's homeless, someone that doesn't have that he's not going to hoard. He doesn't have a place to put all this stuff. He drifts about. He presents himself in this way that it's like, hey, what I carry is what comes with me. But like an idiot, my mind is empty. My mind is empty. And by it being empty, it can be filled with anything. By it being empty, it can be anything. By being empty, it can possess anything, and you can be here present with someone else. You don't have to be something that you used to be. You don't have to go and get that education in case you meet somebody that's going to admire that. I have friends of mine that are constantly telling me, no, not constantly. My language, my grammar isn't always great. And so I have a specific friend of mine who will often correct my language, and she says, I don't look down on you because you use incorrect language, but other people might, and I want you to be able to reach as many people as you can without discrimination. And I appreciate that sentiment, and I appreciate that deeply. Um, and I've learned to speak what I believe. If she's right, and her mom was, language master or whatever, like, I mean, she went to college and got her MRS degree, but her mom also, like, went to school for library sciences, I believe, and so she knows about language. And so, although I am speaking better, I'm not holding on to those rules. They just happen to be with me. But my mind, when I'm communicating with people, is empty. I don't try to think about what I'm going to say first. I just come out and say it. There are times, of course, when I'm doing talks and when I'm doing lectures and things, that, of course, things are planned, but that's what's expected, or that's what I'm being paid for. Dot dot. But but when I can come into a conversation present with all that I am, rather than all that I have, then I feel like I come more prepared. Other people are bright, I alone am dark. Other people are sharp, I alone am dull. Other people have purpose, I alone don't know. And this is about being present with yourself, right? Being bright is an aspect of being defined, right? You are being defined as bright. You are being defined as sharp. You are being defined as having purpose. Once you define those things in your eyes, then you see me as dark, dull, or not knowing. But I don't have to do that, right? So much of this is about perception, because we start with that: stop thinking and end your problems. The concept here is someone who has stopped thinking and ended their problems. They no longer see the difference between yes and no, success and failure. And then he is telling us, or they are telling us, you value what others value, avoid what others avoid. So what do people value? People value being excited as though they were at a parade, and It's not that he doesn't care, but in comparison, once you are the person who is thinking, if you're the one being told to stop thinking, then this person who is speaking to you is going to not care. And because everybody around him is caught up in the sensory explosion of the world, they seem like they don't care. I alone am expressionless, like an infant before it can smile. Other people have what they need. I alone possess nothing. I alone drift about like someone without a home. I am like an idiot. My mind is so empty. Now we get into this, and I do relate this back to that stop thinking. And so we have to understand this is a conversation between two people. Here is a person who has stopped thinking. So no longer thinking is no longer thinking is a space where there is no comparison. But in the text, we have comparisons of bright, dark, sharp, dull, purpose, not knowing. Right? So we have these comparisons, but without thinking, one doesn't hold those. So in a perception of someone, other people are bright. They believe that they are bright. They are running around like they are bright. And yet they look at me, the master who has stopped thinking, and say, "Oh, you're dark. You don't have the brightness that we do. Other people are sharp." This is a self identified thing. Other people are sharp. And so this is something that once they have defined sharp, I alone am dull. I alone am being perceived as dull. I am not holding this identity, but I am being perceived this way. Why am I not holding the identity? Because I have already stopped thinking in order to end my problems. Other people have purpose. I alone don't know. I alone am perceived as not knowing because other people, because I'm not knowing what I'm going to do or where I'm going because other people have purpose. And so they look at me and think I don't know what I'm doing. But I, in order to end my problems, stopped thinking, stopped judging this. You go out and find your purpose and then expect everybody else to find a purpose. You go out and be sharp and you expect everybody else to be sharp. You go out and you're bright and you expect everybody else to be bright. Well, then we go back to that first line was must you value what others value and avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. And so this is like the joke in here where it's like all of these things are true. I don't care. I am not like, I don't know. I'm dull. I'm dark. But all of this is coming from a perception of from the external. I drift like a wave on the ocean. I blow as aimless in the wind. And this is where this speaker, this is where the master says, owns what his life is. He isn't here trying to you know put a stamp of approval on what he's doing. He's just I drift like a wave on the ocean. I blow as aimless as the wind. I go to the next most obvious place. I own the next most obvious moment. I am me as I am in this moment. I am not deciphering good or bad. I am not deciphering. I'm not dependent on what you value. I'm being here, present, in my own. I am different from ordinary people. I drink from the great mother's breasts. This brings about so much. I'm different from ordinary people. I really love being different from ordinary people. I mean, as someone asked me not long ago who some famous person was, and I couldn't tell them, and I don't even remember the famous person. They were like, "Really?" And then a friend of mine and they were talking and they were like, "Yeah, he doesn't know any of this stuff." and and they were like, "You're so lucky that you don't know who this person is." And I was like, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if I'm lucky to not know that person. But I'm different from ordinary people. And this concept of drinking from the great mother's breasts, I'm not exactly sure how that relates. I don't know. Like, I am different from ordinary people. I drink from the great mother's breast. Now, the great mother is the divine feminine, so the divine feminine is an interesting concept as we relate it here, right? Because I have in these talks kind of established that the masculine is the structure, and the structure in number 20 here is thought, right? The structure is thought. Stop thinking and end your problems. It is the thinking that builds the structure, but it is when you can stop thinking and stop, like, allowing that structure to distract you, that you can separate yourself from yes, no, success, how other people value things. So that's where you can go. So the great mother's breasts, like here, I drink from the great mother's breasts as this 20 kind of wraps up. What we get to see is this is the divine feminine. This is the yielding. I am different from ordinary people. I don't have to rely on the structure. I drink from the great mother's breasts. I don't I don't need the structure that has been established of, how ridiculous, right? Like, must you value what others value, avoid what others avoid? That's all structure. How ridiculous. How ridiculous to go in and value and avoid the same things everybody else does. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to yield to you. And if you want to say that I'm dark, if you want to say that I'm dull, if you want to say that I don't know, fine. That doesn't concern me because I drink from the great mother's breasts. Bella, thank you for joining me. How are you, dear?
I'm fine. Thank you for following me. I don't normally
No,
check
I
my
was
phone.
following you, and when I was listening to you, and I clicked on your name, I don't know if the check mark or the plus meant like follow, and so I unfollowed you accidentally and then followed you.
Oh, what does it matter?
Yeah, no,
Drinking
I
from
was
the
I
great
was like, oh,
mother's breast.
she's gonna get a notice that I'm following her, and then I just got a notice you were following me, and then I was like,
I was
oh,
like,
okay, well,
what's going on here?
yes, there's something in the app.
The thing is, it's Christmas and I'm winding down, so I thought, oh, but I thought Martin John was always following me.
I have been following you.
It didn't really matter, Martin,
No, of
because
course not.
because it's the. I was just so happy. I saying to somebody, wow, I just looking for my Instagram, and I always send things which I like to people. And then I said, "Oh, I have 900 followers." It says that's nothing. Well, there you go, there you go. And why I say that is because you said you follow from the great mother's breast, and I think as mother they give life to the
Yes.
youth, and the youth can come and drink of it whenever they want. And a baby can not only drink from the mother's breast, can drink from another woman's breast. So
Yeah.
the great mother, to me, symbolizes what life gives us, and whether we're willing to drink from the divine source, which is life, or drink from our own experiences, which you were describing. Um, so that's what I really took away from it. And the bit about the ocean, be- before I run out, I want to read a poem which I read first year on wisdom, and it affected a lot of people. But the ocean always symbolizes to me that how collectively we are this ocean of humanity. And the ripples of the waves, to me, symbolize how each of us interprets the signals that we receive and therefore impact our behavior. But even if it does impact our behavior, it doesn't disconnect us from the
Mhm.
common humanity which we are part of.
Yeah, it contributes to it. It
Yes.
contributes to the complexity. It contributes, and and there is simplicity in that complexity. And so even if we as individuals right now feel quote unquote off, there's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that. That is
But are
just,
we off?
well, right. That's what I mean. Like, just because we feel or interpret it that way, and that's what this is saying. Stop thinking and end your problems. If you
Mhm.
just kind of sit here and be like, "Oh, I'm feeling off," well, now you're defining it. You're thinking. Just be here in this moment.
Exactly. And when we feel off, there is an emotion associated with it. The thing is, rather than to repress it, why don't we sit with it and find the cause of why we're feeling off,
Yeah,
rather than to go with back to our senses and then pick up signals, more signals to justify why we're feeling off, rather than to deal with the emotion that is making us feel off.
that's right. Sitting here and being with that rather than defining it as bad, rather than defining
Exactly.
it as, and that's that in this 20. I don't know if you heard the whole thing, but like the second and third liner, what's the difference between yes and no? What's the difference between success and failure?
Mhm, mhm.
When you can embrace these ideas without the preconceived concepts of what I'm supposed to be or what my expectations are or what I'm used to, well, then you can be present with what is right now.
From my own experience, I think failure is, and I think Jim Carrey put it very well. He said, depression is saying, I don't want to play this character anymore. And when people fail, they're forced to connect with their higher self, the divine self, because we find that connecting to our senses doesn't work anymore. And perhaps that's why when we fail, people move away because they have been given signals, and now we've moved from connecting to the signals to connecting with what we are. Not the character we have put on, but
Right.
who we really are. So, dare I say, that may be a success.
That's right. And it's not, and it doesn't build that, and that doesn't even have to be defined. Everything
Exactly.
isn't, nothing is a success or failure. Everything is, and as we experience it, and it says somewhere in the Tao as well, like, we don't waste anything.
No,
Every moment is a place to learn, whether it's a success or failure. I mean, I've been quoted before as saying, um, we don't want to praise success and damn failure. We want to encourage people to continue learning no matter what they face. And that's the thing. Like, if you face failure and you give up, that's no good. If you face failure and continue, great. If you face success and then flatline and don't grow anymore, that's just as equally as a poor life strategy as failing and giving up. Whether you succeed or failure, the point is to learn and continue to grow.
exactly to learn.
Yeah,
I one thing I don't like labels. And I
yeah,
think you
yeah.
were one of the first people who spoke. Well, what do you do? Well, I guess if you saw my CV, you consider me a success, but I don't feel a success. And at one time, it's almost like learning to walk again. And today, I was very happy with myself. I did the first stage of the sun salutation, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
did 5 lunges. Now, I used to run 400 meters. 5 lunges is it's like what you talking about? 5 lunges. You know what I mean? Excuse me, it's not even a warm up. You know what
Right.
I mean? But it's a success to me because it's a success to me because I was able to focus and do 5 lunges. It's a failure to me if I consider what I used to train at.
Right.
It's a failure, but it is a success to me because in that present moment, I may not have done it as perfectly, but that's the thing. It's living in the past or living in the future. That present moment, I did 5 lunges. It's a success.
Yes.
The thing I keep saying is that, from my perspective anyway, because everybody has different signals, we pay attention to our senses. And the more we pay attention to the senses and the stimuli that's coming, the more difficult it is to connect to our higher self. And the more
Mm,
difficult it is to connect to our higher self, the more difficult it is to connect with love. And the more difficult it is to connect with love, then we have to judge the world in our experiences, which is limited
right.
because love is infinite.
That's right. And we get, and this whole number 20 that I was reading today is all about labeling and the
Mhm,
senses, right?
mhm.
Like I love the parade. Like other people are excited as though they were at a parade, right? And that's just like you're in the world excited about your senses.
Mhm.
And the thing is, and then it states like, I alone don't care, I'm expressionless. And it's not that we don't care that this thing is happening, we are not caught up in caring. I am being perceived as not caring, but I do care, and I'm here and I'm taking it in. I'm just not getting obsessed with it.
Brilliant. And it's because when we're connected with love, our divine self, we are in everything. And if a drop in the ocean doesn't get excited because the dolphins or the sharks or anything is doing its thing,
Right.
it realized that it is part of the whole ecosystem, and that's where I'm trying to get to not let when I allow my senses, I say I'm connecting to my senses. Take some deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Still, still, still. What is it you'd like to do? Or just stay still until, why am I feeling like this?
Yeah.
What was the trigger?
Yes. Oh,
Why? Why? And then you learn. You
that's right.
absolutely learn from that. And I'm so glad we discussed this. I just like to leave with two sayings, and one's on both of them actually on my Instagram page, about when people judge us or when we judge people. It is not your job to detox toxic people. It is your job to detox that part of you that resonates with their toxicity. And I think you were saying that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you were saying that, and that's why I came up because I thought, wow, that is exactly what it is, because it's taking that pause and saying, it is me, it is not them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can I read my poem Fear
I would
again?
I would love to. I think you may have already on my channel, but I love it, and I would love for you to do it again.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Fear by Kahil Gibran. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled, from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road, crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there's no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming part of the ocean. And I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'm so grateful to have met so many beautiful people who remind me that it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. Thank you very much for
Mm.
listening.
Oh, Bella, you're so beautiful. Thank you so much. And you had not read that poem on my channel, so I'm really excited to have that. Um,
Martin, thank you, thank you, thank you.
oh, it's always my pleasure to have you. Thank you. So, if anybody else wants to come on and read me a number, Bella just came on and we continue talking about 20, and 20 is such a nice one, all about like perception and the senses and everything else that's going on with this, and how we're being perceived, and how, um, you know, and Bella really kind of chimed in really nicely about the great mother's breast. It is about being filled, right? Being alive and being energized by our connection to the greatness that we are inside. So if anybody wants to come on, give me a number between 1 and 81. I would love to read your Tao for the day. My Tao was 20. Bella joined us, and I would be happy to have somebody else join and give me a number between 1 and 81. We'll go through your Tao for the day. So if you're interested, let me know. Otherwise, I'll start wrapping up. And if anybody comes on but before I'm wrapped up, I will definitely take your call. Um, my name is Martin John. I host the Recover Yourself podcast, and I have workshops coming up if you're interested in doing any recover yourself work. If you're interested in what I talk about in general, my workshops are all about you owning a part of yourself and getting to know these perceptions. You know, Bella and I talk a lot, and I've talked to Catherine a lot. I've talked to so many people on this network all about this concept of when you can find your trigger, you can find your lesson. And that's what the Recover Yourself workshop presents you with. And we go through a step-by-step process where we talk about your triggers, your stories, and how they attach to a theme in your life, and how that theme may be controlling how you're perceiving the world. Then from there, we get to just bring some awareness into our perceptions. And so I got workshops coming up throughout January and the beginning of February. I got 4 coming up. If you go to my website, martinjohn.com, you'll be able to find more about that. Monday morning is going to be joining me. Maybe we're going to get a number and talk a little bit about that. Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, what's happening, man?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm just cruising around Wisdom right now, working on the computer.
Okay. Um, I believe we've done a Tao before, haven't we?
What's a DAO? Is that like
Tao. So
stock?
this is Tao of the day, and this is a space where you come on, pick a number between 1 and 81, and then we read your Tao Te Ching chapter.
No, we have not, and now I'm so down to do that. All right, so can you explain it a little bit more in detail, and then I'm down to do it.
Well, give me a number between 1 and 81. Let's start there.
Sure, sure. 1 in 81. Uh, shoot. 69. Yeah, I'll do 69.
69.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. So this is the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching translates as the Canon of Reason. It is an ancient text written about 600 BC. And this was written by Lao Tzu as he was leaving his area, like as he was leaving the town that he lived in. And the king of the town or the city or whatever was like, man, you are like one of the smartest people we have. I can't believe you're leaving. Can you write us just some things to keep our community kind of living well? And this was the result of that. So here is 69. The generals have a saying: rather than make the first move, it is better to wait and see. Rather than advance an inch, it is better to retreat a yard. This is called going forward without advancing, pushing back without using weapons. There is no greater misfortune than underestimating your enemy. Under, underestimating underestimating your enemy means thinking that he is evil. Thus, you destroy you destroy your three treasures and become an enemy yourself. When two great forces oppose each other, the victory will go to the one that knows how to yield. And that's 69. First, we'll get your original thoughts, your initial thoughts.
That actually, that's really cool. It makes a lot of sense. Kind of like if someone were to get into a fight, like if someone's like charging at you, and you kind of just wait until they get really close and you move out of the way.
Right.
It's just like a raging bull. You have the little red cloth, and you wait till the bull gets close, and you just do a quick move, and because they're going so fast, steaming ahead, they go right by you.
Right.
That was
Right.
my initial thought.
That is, yeah, that's, and that is, this is about being patient until the moment you need to act. And then the action will come as a natural order of course. So, and so we're going to go through this line by line now. We're going to kind of look at it. We're going to kind of explore it a little bit more. The generals have a saying: rather than make the first move, it is better to wait and see. And this is what you have already very deftly explained, right? This idea that like, hey, once you make the first move, like in chess, I don't know if you play chess, but I like playing as the black side because I get to react to my opponent rather than choose directly, because the white always goes first in chess.
Yeah. So, would you say you like being more on the defensive than the offensive with most scenarios?
Well, I would not say that, but I do, because I think it is a wait and see move. I don't think it is so simple as offense, defense. What I think it is, like, if you are on the defense, you're always waiting to see. But I think once you wait to see, you can find your area of attack where it's a lot easier than, because if you're always thinking defensively, you're always waiting to see. But if you're thinking in the space of being present, then you don't have to attack. But when an attack presents itself, you can step into it.
Yeah, and that is a tough thing in life is when is that time? It's like, is now the time to go forward? Is now the time to attack? Or was I impatient? Was I too patient? Knowing that, when to pinpoint that's a tough one to know.
That is, yeah. Our next line goes: rather than advance an inch, it is better to retreat a yard.
Okay.
So what's interesting here is like this concept of advancing. Yes, when there is an attack imminent, you can, but you don't have to, like, an advance maybe presupposes action, presupposes this idea we need to advance. Well, wait, maybe we can retreat. Maybe we can step back. And in the end, you may recall, like, the victory will go to the one who knows how to yield. Yielding is something that our society here in the United States, I mean, you sound like you're from the States. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Yielding is something that we can look at as a weakness, right? We like this. We like to have the position of the attacker, but here it's stating, like, maybe it's best to step back and just like step out of the way of that bull, like avoid that rather than trying to entangle with something that is coming full speed at you and weighs 3,000 pounds.
Yeah, 100%. Not only am I from the States, I'm from the Northeast. So um, being impatient is like something that you're supposed to be. It's like you're supposed to
Right.
act fast. You're supposed to have answers now. It's like no one ever gives a second to just like relax and think of answer. It's craziness. Everyone has to be like this, almost like tyrant and aggressive. It's just like, guys, like, I understand, like, you saw a Steve Jobs documentary and you think like this is the be all end all on how to do things, but but it's not.
And that's and that moves us into this next section, which says this is called going forward without advancing, pushing back without using weapons. And like the weapons that you're talking about are like impatience, anger, frustration, like loud voices, yelling, all of those sorts of weapons in order to try and get into an advanced position, to get something that may be taken from you, right? That fear space.
Mm, yeah.
And that's huge. I mean, I recently became friends with someone from New York, and she is angry, right? And that's kind of that's her mode
Yeah.
was angry, and forceful, right? And it was funny because there was a point where she was talking about like things, and she hated something, and I just kind of like was like, huh. She was like, what? And I was just like, well, you hate a lot. And all of a sudden she kind of took note, and it was like, whoa, 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 maybe I don't need to hate, right? Maybe that doesn't need to be part of my vocabulary today.
You know
you
that
know
like that philosophical and psychological and even biological to debate like nature versus nurture, like
hmm
what is what, like what makes a person. It's like I personally think like obviously, and I think most people think it's both. It's almost hard to argue that it's not both, but
right.
it obviously part of it's nurture because like it's like why are people from the Northeast so mad? It's like well all they're looking at is concrete and street lights all day. It's like who wouldn't be pissed off just looking at fucking cars and concrete and steel and tar? It's just like yeah, everyone's of course everyone's angry in the Northeast.
Right. And that anger spills out and is such a form of protection from all of this, from being perceived as retreating, from being perceived as yielding, from being perceived as being weak in any way.
Yeah, like if you're a good person, you're weak. Yeah, it's like, oh, there's nice spots though in the Northeast. It's like what the Jersey Shore where you just see like wildebeest eating sandwiches in foil. It's a nightmare.
Okay.
You get it.
Right.
You
I've been to
understand.
the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Okay. There is no great. There is. I really love this section. There is no greater misfortune than underestimating your enemy. Underestimating your enemy means that you're thinking of him as evil. Thus, you destroy your three treasures and become an enemy yourself. So this concept of to have an enemy is to be an enemy is really keen with me. Like I don't want to be an enemy to anybody. Like I don't want to be an enemy, and so I want to be able, and even I mean, if anybody on here is Catholic or Christian, there's that idea of like love your enemy. If you love your enemy, guess what? Motherfucker's not your enemy anymore.
Now I have a question with that one because the first thing that comes to mind is like, if you're seeking revenge, you might as well build two graves. Like that was the first thing that was
Yep.
the
Yeah. Did I lose you? Did you get a call? You muted? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to come back. My guess is you got a call. And I want to say, Kelly Swenson, if you're listening, please stay. I have been wanting to connect with you for a minute now, and and we just haven't yet. So if you are still there, please just stick around. I would love to chat with you. Okay, looks like our buddy Monday dropped, and Kelly is going to join me. Oh my God, Kelly! Oh my God, Kelly! I've been wanting to connect with you for a minute.
That's so cute. Thank you. Do I sound okay? Because somebody complained about my headphones the other day. So that's why
I'm
I said
not
it's close.
complaining about nothing.
Yes. Hi.
How are you?
Doing good. And I
Good.
don't think, yeah,
I've heard you present. I believe. I mean, I know I've heard you do things on here.
chat.
And I've heard you as a guest, and I've seen you in my queue, and then but we haven't spoken here, and I want to, and I want to do the Dow with you.
Yes. I really contemplated my number, by the way. I'm like, there's so many numbers that could mean so much. And so I went with the number 4.
The number 4. This was my number just like 2 days ago or something. And
Oh,
it's
really?
short, but it is deep. The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. It is hidden, but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. Initial thoughts.
Older than God means that we have been thinking before we realized that we were part of something more. That's what came up at the end. And
Mhm.
it totally makes a lot of sense. It does, because it's really like wisdom will change as the one who perceives it or experiences it comes to life and changes and grows and learns. And it's always there. Like there's always deep, true understandings that can be perceived and used and experienced in an infinite amount of ways as we are infinite ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I like I said, I just read through this the other day, so I'm excited about to see how it's expressed a little differently now, now that it's kind of just been kind of floating around up there. So the Tao is like a well, used but never used up. The one thing that I always kind of look at throughout the Tao, and this has been happening over the last couple months, is this concept of structure and substance. There's one verse of the Tao that talks about, you can build a house with walls and things, but it's the space inside that you use. And so I look at the structure, like the well here, to be the structure, but the thing that you use is always present, and that's the space inside. That's the water that's in the well. And the Tao is like a well that you can just kind of, it's both the structure and the that which yields to your life.
I feel that it's the it's the structure of your life. Like there are just some fundamental components that make us up, or that we strive towards, or that you just that are, whether you're not, you acknowledge it. You might not
Right.
notice the walls of the well, but it's there.
That's right. Yeah. And your life, your body is this structure, and yet you can constantly utilize the Tao through the experiences of your life.
It's just a vehicle. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just constantly throw that bucket in and say, well, what is this going to yield now, right? But I can keep throwing the bucket in. Every day I can wake up a new person and have a new experience.
And
Or
the water washes you, or it saves your life, or it cleans a wound, or it gives plants, growth in life, and like nourishes your future. Or so
and it
the
is
use
deep
of it too.
underground, right? It is deep underground, and it's deep inside of us. Like that is what cleans us. That is what nurtures us. That is what holds us, in equilibrium.
And it goes across the entire earth. Like when you go deep enough, like it's just the middle, like it's part of everything. And water is
Yes,
part of everything. Yeah.
absolutely. It is like the eternal void filled with infinite possibilities.
Yeah. Infinite. I agree.
So, like I look at this once again as, from this standpoint of structure. And the one thing that I start to look at is like, here's the Tao. The Tao is all things. And then in that, in that space of having all things, we create something, we create some structure in order to distinguish something, right? We
Mm.
create a planet. Let's say, and we've created many, many things, but the planet then is the structure, but the surface of the planet and inside the planet and all of those little nooks and crannies is where there is where there is space to be able to yield to that which to a possibility.
I was listening to the concept of the house you mentioned a second ago, and that's just immediately came up. I saw it last night. Like I was watching or listening to some scary story, true story in some forest, and how there's this repeating pattern of people can go into their home to feel safe from this something that they're afraid of, like in a forest or wherever outside. And how come that doesn't go through? Like something's looking in the window or whatever. You have this feeling of oh, well, at least I'm in my house. I close the doors. I shut the blinds. I'm okay. And I'm like, how, if there's something terrifying out there, how is it that that is not going to come through your windows or doors? If it's an energy, if it's a mystery terror, like, because we know human beings and what they do. But, and I know I'm not even talking about aliens, just like these are people's stories. And,
Yeah.
but it's
And aliens are fine too, like either way.
yeah, but just, and so, but I'm like, it's because of the energy. It's because when we might not build our house, but when we live in there, we put into that the energy of safety. We believe we are safe. We believe we are contained. And because we feel and believe that, it's like a force field. It's a barrier because there's so much power in what you feel and believe. Like, that makes a lot of sense. So that's what
And
comes to
yeah,
mind.
and the eternal void is everything, right? Like the eternal void is like you could create in your home, you could create a place that's not safe, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah.
possible. Like, and that's probably happening more than people creating a safe space,
Yeah.
right? And that's the thing that, like, but when we talk infinite possibilities, we also have to recognize the fact that it's not a judgment call. Infinite possibilities means infinite possibilities, like however you define good, and infinite possibilities, however you define evil, right? The possibilities are infinite.
They really are. They really are.
And
Because there's all the things you never thought of, and that's infinite.
right.
Yeah.
And the Tao is like a well, used but never used up. You can use that for whatever you want. You can use it for good, and you can use it for bad, and you can use it for greed, and you can use it for shame, and you can use it for wealth, and you can use it for, a destitution, right? Like you can use it to experience whatever you want. And as I mentioned earlier, this idea that you can wake up every day and experience a new experience. You can have a new experience every single day,
When you
and you
can
could be a
go
different
ahead.
person. Go on.
Yeah.
No, please.
Oh, no. When it's empowering you to know how empowered you are. Like, and you can use that empowerment for any experience, like you said, but it's that this is an infinite well, an infinite source of empowerment to whatever desire that lays before you or that you
Yeah.
can think of.
Oh, this is such a beautiful one. It is hidden, but always present. This is fairly self-explanatory. Do you have anything to add?
Only that you have to be able to you desire to look at it. That's all. Desire
Nice.
to see.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. Just have the question.
Yeah.
Can I see it? Where is it? What can I do to see more of this presence?
Yeah.
Like one of the big things I've been doing recently is filling my life with questions. Just
Mm-hmm.
like my whole like 2022 is going to just be questions. Just like, how can I attract more people who love me? How
Yes.
can I, or what about me attracts people that care for me? What about me
Mm-hmm.
attracts, financial possibilities? What about me attracts this? And the whole concept is to just think and be curious about and asking the universe, like what, or asking the Tao in these terms, like what can I do to more align myself with what I want? And I also, one of the questions I ask every day now is, what do I want? And I don't answer that question. I just ask it because, like, although the answer is great, the answer is stagnant. It's going to be something, and then I have to commit to that. But if I can just sit up every morning and be like, who am I? What do I want?
And then release it.
Then just let it go. And it's not for me to answer. It's for me
Yeah.
to be presented with, maybe.
Or an intention. You're just setting the intention.
Yeah, setting the attention to see what it is I want, and then
Yeah.
I can go from there.
People are so, especially people who are perfectionists, but also like high achieving perfectionists, because perfectionism can be like get in your way, afraid to go because you have to be perfect so you don't. But the high achieving people, particularly, I can, oh, I almost tripped over my dog. Um, they really they get in. they ask the question, they want to, but then they're looking for the answer. They're but not just looking, like they're like, okay, like it has to be quantifiable. It has to be on paper. It has to be tangible. I have to hold it. And then you don't allow, and that to come in, like, because it's not always going to be like follow a set of rules or steps, or like something you can put on a table and take apart or whatever. Does that make sense?
Oh
That's
yeah.
something I'm noticing, because it really gets in our way when we have to be able to define the lines of something. If you don't try to define it, you easily can see it.
Right. If like defining it is living in the structure, right? Living in that masculine, living in that yang energy of structure and being like, I want to be able to understand this. And in trying to understand it, we really take on this mode of defining it. And the thing is it can't be defined. If you could define it, it would not be it. Like you and I are infinite, like manifestations of God in some fashion, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and in order to try and like I couldn't explain who you are. I could never understand who you are. I could have a glimpse of a part of you,
Mm-hmm.
but if I tried to just pinpoint you and what you did into 140 characters, right? Our bios, like how much just gets missed. And it's like, no, I want to yield to all of that, and I want to be here energetically connected to you.
Yes.
And then
That's
by
yeah.
doing that, we can truly connect and not define who we are, but be here as we are in mutuality.
The experience is so much greater. Like water is not definable. You can call it water, but it's everything else as well. It's cell structure, it's
Right.
plants, it's soil, it's clouds, it's
It's
atmosphere, it's ice.
conscious,
Yes,
right? Like
yes,
each of
yeah.
these cells like has a connection to God as well. And when I perceive it, it is also me because I am perceiving it.
Yeah.
So then
Yes.
this four is so beautiful. Okay, so then we wrap up with I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. And that thing that I just expressed, this idea that like I cannot write enough books about who you are and still not get to who you are. I always think of the same thing as God. Like if you can explain what God is, that's not it. And the
Exactly.
Tao
Yeah.
and the Tao kind of just here is presented like it's older than that. It's more than that.
Because God is only God. We limit what God is by calling God God, because
I
we are
believe, yeah.
only, yeah, we're defining within constructs now. Like it's an experience, an energetic one, and it's a combination of all energy, right? And that, so of course, like the wisdom and the truth, the deep truth, the deep, like the pure honesty of existence in every infinite capacity is way older than the way that we came up with the word God. Yeah.
Yeah. And just because God is another structure. And before the structure, there was the yield of being. Kelly, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.
And I have Dr. Ryle on. See if he's still here, ready to chat. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me. I was so glad to be able to do that with you. Doctor, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. Dr. Ryo, is that right?
Rao.
Rao. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. It's good to know how to pronounce things. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Rao,
Yeah.
don't get in a row. Let's talk a little bit about the Tao, Mr. Rao.
Yeah. You know what? This Tao and then ancient Indian Brahman are the same.
Oh
The
yes, is that Raman or Brahman?
Brahman.
Brahman. Okay, yes, I
Yeah.
know the Brahman, or not. I
Yeah.
don't. I know of the Brahman.
You know what? The Segal, Judge Lucas, when he made his Star Wars movies, it seems he based on that power, either described as Tao or or the Brahman, or anything else. People call it all pervading, always existing, eternal force that is pervading us, that is in us, around us. Basically, we are all in it. So you were
Yeah.
talking about the same energy. That's where it is at.
I love the what you just said. You said we are all in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there is this understanding in so much of the healing and wellness world that we have a soul within us,
Yeah.
but really I feel like
We
no,
are on the soul.
we are in, like, yeah, we are in the soul, like,
Yeah.
and we are just a singular expression.
Exactly.
We're a recording device
Yeah.
of the
Exactly.
experience of the soul interacting with itself.
Yeah, exactly. See, when I turned to inward, like they showed the way where the mind is quieted to the extent where there's no movement, and then it does see the reality of ours, what we really are. So that is a big deal in ancients because they perceived that, and then they made a life simplified outside so that they can sit down in health and turn inside and find out that self. And once you touch that, this mind and body, which are our instruments, lose their predominance on us. And then
Right.
we are in that energy. That's what I get into right away, because I know you were talking about that, and you were talking about the same energy. I knew exactly where we are both are.
Yes.
That's why I said, okay, I should go and talk to him. I do this namaste, which is symbolic of that. They said there is this universal self in all living beings. I'm going to really prostrate to that energy from the same energy that I do have. But personality, ego are all constructs of thought. But
Hmm.
beyond that is our real nature. In that, we don't have any difference.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I read number 20 this
Mm.
morning. It was the first one that I read. It was the number that I chose.
Yeah.
And the first line is stop thinking and end your problems. And like
Yeah.
that is such a beautiful way of starting anything, right? Like you can, like, that could just be the end of
Yeah.
everything. Like, just stop
You know,
thinking and end your problem.
that is the goal of the yoga, by the way.
Yes.
Everyone thinks this body thing and all, you can do the body for to keep the body strong enough to do this inquiry and all that. But eventually, what happens is there is asana is the third step in yoga. First, social morality, and then personal morality, second step, and then you sit in asana where the posture sitting down, and
Mm-hmm.
then you breathe, and then you withdraw your senses and you concentrate, you meditate, and then you absorb into this energy we are talking about.
Mm. I am in March. I'm going to go on a 5-day dark retreat. So I'm going to be in a space without light for
Ah,
5 days,
yeah,
and that is, and I'll be sitting alone, meditating in the dark.
yeah. But you don't have to do that either, but you can do it. That's okay. But then a lot of people don't have to do that.
No, not at all. No, no, no.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. I have a practice I will share with you what it is called Atma Chintan. That means when you take a deep breath and all that, you can see your thoughts are going down. They kind of absorbed, right?
Right.
And then you go beyond the thought and settle yourself in the true reality or true self of yours where we are all there. Okay. Once you are there, then any thought coming up, then say, where is this thought coming from? That's called Atma Chintan. That means you are focused on the real self and then you treat the thoughts as they come up. You don't get indulged or you don't suppress. Use them for practical purposes, otherwise, then you are walking in a real silence, and that is very blissful and a conscious being. And once you touch that, energy is really, you will feel that, how energetic you are, how blessed you are, how it's kind of a energy of the love where there's
Yes.
no movement of the thought at all. If I say I'm loving you, I should be having any opinions or anything like that. That's because it's conditional. But when you say, okay, you're a human being, I'm a human being, we both are in the same energy, That is kind of love.
Yeah. And that's it, like just going back a little bit, like this concept of like being present with you and the experience that you're having,
Yes,
and understanding that that experience you're having is an experience of yourself. It
yes, yes,
isn't you're not a victim of it.
yes. Yes.
It
It's
is
a,
not happening. It is not happening to
yeah.
you. It is happening of you.
Yeah. See, once they said the problem with us is we let the outgoing senses and intellect determine our thoughts and everything. But if you really want to find out inside who you are, then use your intuition, not your intellect, so many theories, books, and all that, but your intuitive feeling of that energy, which you already know you are a part of it. But only thing is, we are not that, we think, and then our intellect goes all sorts of things to find. It's like this. They said, suppose you are in an ashram or retreat, and then you want to go to the retreat, but you are in the retreat already, but you
Already.
that kind of thing. You get
Yeah.
up and walk 5,000 miles and come back and say, okay, I found it. So wherever
Well,
we are,
like that was I have like in terms of formal retreats and things, those are always interesting because like taking you out of your life, you're retreating.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
retreating from the things that you have
exactly,
built, and
exactly,
and
yeah,
and you can't return. You may have find it difficult to return to your regular life, but
yeah,
your regular life is the thing that's testing and moving you through
uh,
awareness. And
exactly,
that's where like most of my practices
yeah,
and my interest in doing like the dark retreat is about getting rid of my sight as an artist and
yeah,
as somebody who has experienced and defined so much by what I see. I want to witness
yeah,
what is on the other side of my sight. Now,
yeah.
I don't think I would ever do it again. It's just about having that experience and knowing a new thought.
I think
Like,
there's nothing wrong doing the retreats, but I will tell you one practice that helped me because I'm a physician, always
yes.
everything, right? So I discovered what's called vacating the mind every day, keeping the mind clean, mirror of the mind clean before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, you get up, you got to have a fresh mind. Again, you want to be in the present and then continue. So that really helped to settle down in the present moment of awareness. So
Yeah.
I talk a lot about awareness versus thought because thought is not bad as long as we use it for practical purposes. But when we want to discover what you are talking about, I am talking about the Tao or the Brahman, that is subjective. It cannot be made an object and say that.
Yes. No, like it is within the object and it's
Yeah,
within you
yeah.
that Brahman exists.
Yes, it is already there in all living beings. The great book of the Bhagavad Gita, people read for 20, 30 years, still don't get it. One sage pointed to me, you just read only one sloka in that, and that's enough. In that, he says, I am the life force existing in all living beings from the beginning, middle, and end of it.
Oh, yeah. And
That's the Tao. That's the Brahman he's talking.
that's yeah, that is all the same concept.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
all the same. And this concept existed. When was the concept of Brahman first initiated? Do you?
I don't do Tao or Brahman as concepts, Martin. More like a
Yes, no, of course, but man, people
yeah.
have
Oh,
identified them.
centuries ago, the whole thing was told in very small sentences, even Chinese or Indian or Egyptian or
Uh,
any of Japanese literature too. For example, Indian, they said, Aham Brahmasmi. That means, Aham means me, Brahman.
mm-hmm.
I am that Brahman. Not that in egoic sense, but it's the
No,
same
yeah,
that energy, that life, that's there, not only me, but in all living beings. And then once you can see through all the filters, like a Superman, you can go through and identify the awareness. That's what I'm trying to do with the namaste. And so
Yeah.
if I go to the patient, I say namaste, all this comes flooded to me. And
Mm.
I can see the patient at the awareness level, beyond all the filters of man and woman, American, Indian, Chinese, whatever. And then I go to that awareness where everybody is the same.
Yes.
And that is, we're connected there. And I think the problem with our thought is it kind of identifies with something and divides us in that way.
Right. Thought forces
Yeah,
it forces us to identify, meaning it
yeah,
forces us to distinguish. And the
yeah.
birth of distinguish is to separate.
By the way, where I told you that vacating the mind, this is
Yeah.
what I do. In reverse order, I kind of dissociate myself from what am I associate. Like I'm a doctor, I'm a father, I'm a husband,
Yes. This is the
all
mind.
those, yeah, all those things I kind of actively dissociate and also try to find the place where the thoughts are coming from. They are all coming from the silence. And that's why they said, be still and know God.
Yes.
The
And
same.
that's the only way to know God.
Yeah, I think they all said that. Christianity said that, Hindus said that, Muslims said that, Buddhists said that, Chinese said that. But then we let our mind go so far with things of the world, and then we cannot realize this. That's why they said, first purify your mind, calm it
Yes. Yes.
still.
We go through these cycles, right? Like early mankind dealt with the masculine cycle of survival, that structure of
Yeah,
survival and figuring out what survival is. And then we yielded
yeah,
to survival for relationship and family. And
yeah,
then language came about, and all of these wonderful sort of feminine qualities of communicating and relationship. And
yeah.
then
That,
we went into this more masculine world
yeah,
that we're living in now, which
yeah,
was deemed by writing our language down and solidifying things with more structure.
yeah.
And I
You know
believe
what?
that we're moving into a new stage of more feminine yielding now.
Absolutely right. You see, they said, somebody went and said, no, I'm not able to take this mind activities. I have no peace in life. Show me the way. Then he said, the sage, go back to where you came from.
Hmm.
We have traveled away from the spiritual heart so much, and now we are in the mind completely. We have to get back, and then this is the practice we do, understanding what's mind, what is thought, what's the role, and then ended up in the, we're already there, we are that, just
Yes.
just be, so.
Yeah.
Well, nice
Doctor,
to
oh,
you.
it's such a beautiful, beautiful connection to be able to connect with you. I am following you now. I'm so excited to hear, like, go back and listen to some of your talks and connect with you in the future.
Sure, I will be active here, and I love this app, Martin. Wonderful to see you too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And one time we're gonna have to have you on here and actually pick a number, and we'll talk about some Brahman.
Sure, sure, definitely.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, thank everybody so much for joining me. 95 people have slipped through this room. Hopefully, some of you stuck around and listened and enjoyed what we had to offer. I'm gonna be here for I'm gonna do my outro stuff. But if you want to step up and chat with me, I would love that. Dr. Rao, thank you for being on. Um, Oh, Kelly Swenson, is that right? Thank you, Bella. Thank you for always being such a beautiful support and joining me on the Dow. Um, I didn't see any of my regulars today, but like we'll catch up with them another time. My name is Martin John. I host the Recover Yourself podcast. This is a Recover Yourself production. I have workshops coming up, so if you're interested in some of the things that I talk about and some of my angles, I would love for you to join me at a workshop. You can find out more information about that on my website, martinjohn.com, spelled the way you see it here on Wisdom. That's martinjohn.com. I send out little tidbits and stuff. Most of my work does revolve around recovery, but I look at what is it we're recovering to. So nothing in terms of recovering from, really. What I talk about is how are you recovering yourself? How are you recovering to who you are? And how can you further do that? And that is the goal of the work that I do. I also work with clients. I take a limited number of, I only take 10 clients a month. I work with you over 4 weeks, and then you go out and live your life and go out to recover your true self. We dig and we find some really, really harsh things, and we just kind of bring those things to the surface so you can be aware of them. Once you have that new stage of awareness, you can live your life any way you want. No judgment. It's all on you. And super simple, super fun, but it is also very very productive. So if anybody is interested in working with me, reach out to me on Instagram, my website, or any of the other links that you find here. Thank you again. My name is Martin John. This is a Recover Yourself production, and until next time, keep recovering yourself.